Hello, Christian. Thank you so much for joining us today at this rather early hour in the morning. I imagine you've had quite a busy weekend behind you, so we really appreciate you taking the time. I first wanted to ask you, what was it like standing there amongst the estimated 200-ish thousand people at Pride in Budapest on Saturday?
Hey, thanks for having me. It was honestly awesome, incredible. Uh, going going to the march, I felt very anxious, to be honest. I didn't know what to expect. I was so worried that there might be a clash, because some of the far right parties organized a protest um, before the march gathering spot. So I don't know. I was like, I hope nothing bad is going to happen and people will have a great time. And it just turned out even better than you know, ever imagined.
Christian, as you said, there were a lot of unknowns about how this march would go down, also how the police would act, how the counter-protesters would act. How did you prepare for this march? Like, how did you deal with the potential risk of it?
Mm, I don't know. I was just like, um, I felt very anxious, as I said, but I I just didn't know what to expect. So um, I was like, let's go there as many as we can and just deal with the consequences later. Like, I didn't want to, and it didn't even cross my mind that I wouldn't go because of the police, or I didn't expect the police to act violently or anything like that. That didn't really cross my mind. But I thought that they might be, finding people randomly, and that didn't happen.
There is still the possibility that you and the people you marched with will be fined, right? Because the government has said it's going to use facial recognition technology to identify the marchers and fine them up to €500. Uh, was this something that you were discussing with your friends, like in preparation to going to the march? And for some people, was that a reason for not marching?
No, I personally don't know anyone who stayed at home because of the fine or the potential fine. No, no.
There were also a lot of international visitors to Pride this year. Like Greta Thunberg was there, 70-ish members of the
Hmm.
European Parliament. My husband actually just happened to be there. So there were dignitaries, but there were also these regular people who just wanted to come and support Hungarian queer people. Did that international attention and support feel important to you? Did that make you feel any safer?
Yeah, that's why I'm doing these interviews, to be honest, to, just like trying to keep the conversation alive, or I just don't want it to fade, especially before the march, because I thought that it would help the movement and the march if um, like international attention is hot on this topic. It also gave me a sense of safety knowing that so many politicians would show up, because that way the march has extra protection, um, and yeah, and safety for from the police to be as well.
The response to Orban's Pride ban from the European Commission has come under quite a lot of criticism for not being strong enough. Um, the European Commission has not yet opened new legal proceedings against the Hungarian government since the Pride ban, but there are infringement proceedings going on against the government currently, against the Hungarian government currently. The EU Equality Commissioner, Hajila Habib, it was in Budapest in support of the Pride, but she didn't actually go to the march. How do you look at the response of the European Commission to the Pride ban?
I mean, it's nice. I could say it's not strong enough, but what can they do? The EU is not designed to, like regulate bad boys. It's based on the assumption that members recognize and appreciate their mutually beneficial interactions and interests. So I don't know, like Yeah, all these horrible laws, of course, eventually be turned back by the European Court, but until then, they are in effect. So I don't know. Like I think many of us are done waiting for the EU to solve this issue for us because we have to do this on our own.
I saw that you've said that growing up in the 90s, you felt hopeful about Hungary's future. What's it been like to lose some of that hope? And what's it like being a gay man in Hungary in 2025?
I don't know. It's so complex because, you know, like Saturday's Pride uh, is an evidence of Hungarian society being so much more accepting towards us than the government wants us to believe. And I always had the same feeling. Like, um, I'm always surprised that they keep trying to reuse this anti-queer rhetoric because it doesn't work. It never did. Like, I don't know, whenever they make any of these laws, there's always backlash from society. So I don't even know why they're doing this. I don't think it's to cater to, I don't know, um, to their voters. I think it's more about generating noise because the country is about to collapse economically. Like our healthcare system is insane. Our education system is insane. Um, you know, everything is just like tumbling down, and they finally have a new challenger who actually has a shot of winning next year's election. So I think it's just noise.
On the other hand, it does have impact on people's lives. The Pride ban and many of the other homophobic bans in Hungary are often explained as being to protect the children. And I'm wondering what you think the impact of these bans are on queer children.
Yeah, I think it's horrible because like growing up, I'm 35 years old, so I grew up in the early 2000s. Like I was a teenager in the 2000s, and like back then, I think even globally, queer representation was quite limited, and it always focused on like the tragedy of it and the sin and the I don't know like repercussions, um, and these days at least teens have global access to um, like representation that does justice for them. But here in Hungary, like, I don't know, if I was a queer teenager right now in Hungary, it would make me really confused and scared of seeing the world being so open towards people like me. And in my country, people are criminalizing entertainment that would help find me solace and shelter.
So, I mean, we haven't explained it explicitly here, but we've talked about it on the podcast before. You wrote a book about your life as a gay man and a person of color in Hungary, and it's banned in any bookshop within 200 meters of a church or a school. And of course, we can talk about the politics of that or the
Yeah.
impact on queer children growing up, but I'm wondering, what does that feel like for you?
That's the thing about living in Hungary. Like you're so used to of these, your rights being chipped away. So, this didn't just happen overnight. Every year they just like kept raising the stakes or just like pushing your boundaries. So by the time it happened, I wasn't shocked. I was like, oh, of course, okay. What's next? How to work around this? Obviously, it felt bad, especially since, it was quite well received and it got nominated for a prize. And even in this book festival, that is the celebration of this prize, my book, even though it was nominated, it got removed from the shelves. And that felt really bad.
Yeah, that must be awful. But as you say, you are still going out there. You are doing all these interviews, and you are becoming a kind of spokesperson for Hungary's LGBTQ plus community at the moment. And I wanted to know Is that a role that you're happy to have?
I never would have thought that I would find myself in this position, and that's not something that I aspire to. Uh, and that's also because I think if you have like visible uh, outsiderness or you're part of any minority groups, everything you do is immediately labeled as yeah, society puts you in an activist role, but whether you want it or not. And I I am happy to do this, and um, I hope it helps. Um, it comes with a lot of anxiety. I was, especially before the Pride, doing all these foreign interviews. I at one moment I was um, actually scared of who knows, like maybe this is going too far. Like maybe it could have like repercussions or whatever. And I even bailed out for like 10 minutes from an interview. Um, and then I came to my senses and I'm like, no, 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 this is exactly what they want for us to censor ourselves. And actually, many of these laws, the wording is very murky. So it's not exactly described what they mean by the promotion or the depiction of gender diversity and homosexuality in literature or art or movies. So they rely on people's fear of being fined or whatever, and they hope that they will censor themselves. And many bookstores do that as well.
When you read the international press, are there things about Hungary and what's going on around you that you wish people knew or better understood? Like, do you feel like people outside of Hungary understand what's happening?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's such a complex thing to, like really understand what's going on in a foreign country. What I didn't want is that for this to be used as a thrill, for foreigners to um, watch something and be feeling like, oh my God, this is so bad. It's so, oh, this could never happen to us. Or we're so lucky or whatever. Because I think the biggest takeaway from this is that this can happen anywhere. And it didn't just happen to us because we're so unlucky. Um, and yeah, this is to guard your rights closer and don't sit back because what happened here was that the country was uh, initially like so starved for change 15 years ago, and we gave total power to Orban. And it just got dark in a few years. And we protested and we spoke up, and nothing really mattered. So many of us felt eventually so burnt out and hopeless that we just withdrew from this space completely. And of course, we still voted and we still protested here and there, but we felt defeated. Like, okay, this will never change. And this Pride ban, like what happened this spring, I think was a turning point for us. Like it definitely was a wake-up call for me that no, 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 you can still do something. You have to try and you have to fight and you have to speak up. And I think many people felt like this, and that's why 200 plus thousand people showed up this past Saturday.
Yeah, it does seem from the outside also to that there's some energy brewing, that there's like appetite for change. And I wondered, do you think that Orban's political strategy has actually backfired on himself and he's gone too far? I mean, Péter Magyar, as you mentioned earlier, he's continuing to rise in the polls. Do you think Orban has made a political error, and do you think change is coming?
Um, yes, I think the change is coming, and I really hope that mm, Péter Magyar wins next year's elections because he's like our only hope at this point. We never had a challenger who had an actual chance in the past 15 years. So it's nice to see society, like waking up and getting more and more hopeful every day. And I think that Orban, yeah, made a political error with this. I don't know what he expected because they usually measure everything really really well, like in the polls. So I don't know what he expected, but it definitely wasn't 200 plus thousand people marching on the street.
I got goosebumps when you described 15 years of apathy and then 200,000 people on the streets. I can't imagine what that feels like, this wake-up call. And I'm wondering, okay, you're awake now. What's next for you?
We have to learn thinking about this kind of political activism as a regular thing, like a continuous thing that we do, even if Péter Magyar wins next year's elections and Orbán regime goes, we still have to be present in this space in order to avoid this happening again. Because how he rises now is very similar to what Orbán did 15 years ago. So, we have to be careful and we have to be active. Yeah. We can never go back to just like sitting on the couch and just like being depressed about political changes and not trying to challenge them.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today and yeah, being brave and speaking out. So thank you, and we're so happy that it was such a success last weekend.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.